You talk too much right now. Look at yourself. Every room you walk into, every silence that appears for even 2 seconds, you rush to fill it. Words pouring out like a broken dam. Noise. Useless, desperate, embarrassing noise. You're not communicating, you're bleeding. You are leaking power out of your mouth every single time you open it without purpose. Wake up. You've been conditioned, trained like a circus animal to believe that the loudest voice in the room is the strongest, that if you talk more, people will like you more, that if you explain yourself enough, justify yourself enough, entertain them enough, then they will respect you. Look at that. You actually believe that. You think drowning people in your words makes you significant. You think rambling through a conversation makes you interesting. It doesn't. It makes you look like a man who has never once sat alone with his own thoughts and survived the experience. Here is the cold, hard Spartan truth. Excessive talking is not confidence. It is the mask of a man who is deeply, fundamentally insecure. When you cannot tolerate silence, you are telling the entire room one thing: I need your validation to feel like I exist. That is not strength. That is surrender. The Spartans understood something that the modern man has completely forgotten. Words are ammunition, and ammunition is not to be wasted. Spartan youth were not taught to speak more clearly. They were taught to speak less, deliberately, surgically. A Spartan did not give a speech when a sentence would do. He did not give a sentence when a single word would do. And he did not give a word when silence would do it better. But you apologize before you make a point. You say and like and I just wanted to say, as if you need permission to have a thought. You over-explain. You repeat yourself. You laugh nervously at your own words. You are not commanding a room. You are auditioning for its approval. And the room is not impressed. Every word you speak without intention is a stone removed from your fortress wall. Speak enough useless words, and eventually there are no walls left. You stand exposed, readable, predictable, weak. The man who talks too much tells you everything about himself, his fears, his insecurities, his desperation before you've even asked a single question. Silence is armor. Words are weapons. Use both wisely.
Now we go deeper. Now we talk about what the ancient world knew and what this soft, loud, overstimulated era has deliberately buried. We talk about the philosophy of verbal efficiency, the Spartan shield. The Spartans of ancient Laconia were so precise, so ruthlessly economical with their language, that the entire ancient world named a style of speech after them, Laconic, from Laconia, short, sharp, devastating. When the Persian king Xerxes sent a message to the Spartan king Leonidas demanding he surrender his weapons, the entire response from Leonidas was 2 words: come and take them. Not a negotiation, not an explanation, not a justification. 2 words that carried the weight of 10,000 soldiers behind them. That is what verbal precision looks like. That is what it sounds like when a man has absolute command of himself. Zeno of Citium, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we may hear more and speak less. Read that again slowly in your mind. The architecture of your own face is an instruction manual. You were literally built, biologically designed to absorb twice as much as you emit. And yet, here we are. Silence is not emptiness. Let me be very clear about this, because weak men confuse silence with having nothing to say. Silence is not a void. Silence is pressure. When you stop filling the air with noise, something extraordinary happens. The room shifts. People become uncomfortable. They begin to look at you. They begin to wonder, what is he thinking? Why isn't he reacting? What does he know that I don't? That discomfort, that wondering, that is called respect, forming in real time. When you remain silent while others scramble to fill the air, you are not passive, you are dominant. You are the eye of the storm. The calmest, most controlled presence in the room is never the one talking the most. It is always, always the one who speaks least and means everything he says. And then when you do speak, after that silence has done its work, every head turns, every ear leans in, because they have been trained by your silence to understand when this man opens his mouth, it matters. Your words carry the weight of a man who chose them carefully. You are not the entertaining background noise. You are the signal that cuts through all the noise. Power is often found in the words you do not speak. There is a psychological phenomenon that happens in every conversation where one man is disciplined in his silence. The other person, the one doing all the talking, begins to fill the silence with themselves. They reveal their insecurities. They over-explain. They give you information you never asked for. They expose themselves completely. And you, sitting in your silence, watching, listening, you collect it all. You become the most dangerous man in the room, not because of what you said, but because of what you heard. The man who listens wins. Enough philosophy. You want to know how to actually do this? You want to know how to walk into a room and command it without raising your voice? Then shut up and listen, because I'm only going to say this once. You are initiating the Spartan Shield Protocol, starting now. Not tomorrow, not after you finish watching this, now. Practical step 1, the 3-second rule. Someone asks you a question, any question. You do not respond immediately. You pause, exactly 3 seconds. You hold eye contact, you breathe, you think. Not because you don't know the answer, but because you are signaling with your body, with your stillness, with the cold calm in your eyes, that you are in total control of your mind and your mouth, that you cannot be rushed, that you cannot be rattled. Most men respond immediately because they are afraid. Afraid of the silence, afraid of looking slow, afraid of seeming uncertain. But here is what actually happens when you pause. You look certain. You look like a man who has the luxury of taking his time because he answers to no one's panic but his own deliberate judgment. 3 seconds, every time, no exceptions. Practice it in the mirror. Practice it with your friends. Practice it under pressure until it becomes your default state. Not a technique, but a nature. Practical step 2, speak in declaratives. Short, sharp, factual, final. You do not say, I was kind of thinking maybe we should possibly consider. That is the language of a man begging for permission to have an opinion. You say, here is what we do. You say, no. You say, that is wrong. You say, I disagree. Clean, direct, non-negotiable. Eliminate eliminate like, eliminate every verbal apology that exits your mouth before you've even made your point. These are not just filler words, they are submission signals. They tell everyone listening that you are not sure you have the right to speak, and the room will agree with your own assessment of yourself every single time. When you master this, when the 3-second pause becomes instinct and the declarative sentence becomes your only mode, something shifts. You stop being the entertaining clown in the corner who everyone enjoys but no one respects. You become something far more powerful. You become unreadable. You become the man whose next words no one can predict. The man people watch carefully, not because he demands attention, but because he has earned it through discipline and restraint. You become the strategic predator, not loud, not showy, not performing, just present, controlled, lethal in your precision. A sword is not powerful because it is always drawn. It is powerful because it can be. The Spartans did not need to announce themselves. They did not need to market their strength with volume. When 300 men held the gates of Thermopylae against an empire, they did not give a speech. They held the line. And when history needed to remember them, the silence of their sacrifice spoke louder than any words ever could. That is your standard. That is the bar. Not loudness, not performance, presence. When you master this, when the 3-second pause becomes instinct and the declarative sentence becomes your only mode, something shifts. You stop being the entertaining clown in the corner who everyone enjoys but no one respects. You become something far more powerful. You become unreadable. You become the man whose next words no one can predict, the man people watch carefully, not because he demands attention, but because he has earned it through discipline and restraint. You become the strategic predator, not loud, not showy, not performing, just present, controlled, lethal in your precision. You become the silent master of your domain, the man who speaks least and means most. They will not just hear you, they will remember you.